What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for us to talk about AEW Revolution 2022 coming up this weekend. We're going to break down the card, tell you our thoughts on who's going to win all the matches, what we're excited about, what we're not so keen on, and all the other kind of preview stuff that we normally do here. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Robert D. Felice.
Hey.
And Callum Wiggins.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. It is time for the first true WWE, or not WWE, AEW pay-per-view of the year. Just so used to saying WWE. We, of course, have had some special episodes in the meantime, but this is the actual first pay-per-view event. And it's looking like it's got some pretty decent matches on this card. Some of them not as much, but, you know, I mean, not everyone can be the best thing in the world. Overall, I'm kind of excited for it. How you guys feeling about it?
Very, very excited. This card looks immense.
Yeah, these shows they always deliver. They're like the excitement that we used to feel for TakeOver combined with the excitement that you should feel for like a WWE pay-per-view.
A premium live event.
Fuck off. No.
Don't get me wrong, I'm going to be exhausted by the end of it because every AEW show is a
9-hour long thing.
It's a marathon to get through, but I'm going to enjoy the vast majority of it. I can at least assume so far.
Yeah, go ahead.
As we've already learned with the Wednesday Night Wars, they're very good at marathons.
Yeah, I am in a situation where I'm looking at this card and I'm thinking I'd be cool with two of the matches not existing on this card and just happening on Dynamite or Rampage and maybe cutting down the time a little bit. But yeah, it's still potential to be good on top of that for those two matches. And then, of course, there's other matches that are pretty much assuredly going to be good, if not great. So as we run down this card, we want you guys to tell us your thoughts, everybody listening here. So drop a comments below. Tell us what you think is going to happen and what you are pro and con against and everything. While you're doing that, make sure to do all the usual YouTube stuff here. Hit the share button, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, ring that little notification bell, hit the join button to get access to the members only stuff like the same things on the Patreon, which are the dark casts and the pick your poison tier, and even just, you know, $1 a month is going to help keep the lights on here and, you know, show us that you guys support us and just kind of, you know, keep the discussion going. So let's start off with, I guess, the general, you know, question we normally do here when it comes to kickoffs and buy-ins and stuff. Do you think that there's going to be any more matches added to this card? And if so, what do you think is going to happen?
I think we're going to see something with Buddy Matthews. You know, whether it's a singles match or maybe Phoenix is back and we do get that 6-man, I think Buddy Matthews should on the card.
I had thought about that, but I think that their intention was to do Death Triangle against the 3 members of the House of Black, and maybe they're just going to hold off on that.
I'm kind of hoping that there won't be any other additional matches. I think it doesn't need to have an extra one. It's like some more things to make a Dynamite or a Rampage episode more need to watch. So I don't think they're not like adding any other matches to this card is going to make people really tune in more than they already will do.
Especially if it ends up being one of those buy-in matches that we've seen before where it's just guy versus guy. Or like do we really need to have, for instance, you know, it's Dante Martin against, I don't know, Mark Quinn. Like, yeah, it might be fun, but it's not going to do anything. If they don't add any matches, what match do you think might get bumped up to the buy-in?
The TBS championship match.
That was kind of where I was thinking too.
I would hope not.
Think so.
I'm sick. Look, I'm just gonna get out of the way. I'm sick of why can't we just have all the women's matches on the main card? So if that's what the fans want, give it to them, and don't put that match on the buy-in. As far as what I think would go on the buy-in, probably something. Well, I don't know. I was gonna say probably something with best friends, but really you can't do anything else other than the than the TBS championship match. So you might be stuck with that, but I think that'd be a bad move.
Yeah, there
I think
is. Go ahead.
Yeah, the only two choices I see is that one or the 6-man tornado tag.
Mm-hmm. Those are the two matches that I was alluding to earlier, where I was like, if they weren't on the card, I'd be perfectly fine with that. And not to crap on any of the people, because every single person in that group of the 6 and the 2 women are all talented, but it's just like, I don't need this to be a 4-hour long kind of event. And I do kind of get the feeling that maybe they might just add another match and it's just going to be another sort of random thing. So I'm not feeling super high about that. Of course, we don't know for sure. And, Dynamite hasn't happened yet tonight. So eventually when we get to the hot tags, we're going to address the different changes. Because right now we're missing a member of the tag team title match. We're missing the last person of the Face of the Revolution ladder match. And we're missing the potential buy-in information. But we could see something just completely random. Maybe it's just like a Dante Martin against so-and-so match. Maybe it's Buddy Matthews versus Penta. Maybe it is Lance Archer destroying someone, or it's Pac against fucking Shawn Dean. I don't know. Like, they do sort of random things here and there.
Wait a minute. Hook versus QT. I think that'd be a great buy-in match.
Sure. The buy-in, of course, is the same as the kickoff for WWE. It's just to whet your appetite. And it's, for the few, I would assume very few people that would be interested to check out the free show, but wouldn't already have bought it. It's just to kind of, if you like that, then spend $60 on the pay-per-view and just buy that. I can't imagine that really even works anymore. That's another discussion for another day, though.
But I think we're far too in the bubble to be the people to answer that question.
Any casuals that might pop up on here that are more like, I might watch it, I might not, it kind of depends. Definitely let me know, because I'm very curious. It just seems to me like you're either buying it or you're not. You're either going over your friend's house and you're all chipping in, you're all drinking beer and eating pizza and watching whatever the pay-per-view is, whether it's WWE or AEW, or you're just not. I just can't imagine that somebody's kind of like, I'll check out the pre-show and make my judgment. I don't know. I went on a whole rant yesterday or the day before or whatever, responding to Dan Murrell's thing about the Oscars, and I was just kind of like, I fully agree. Like, all these people keep trying to market towards everyone, and they keep ignoring the idea that the niche is a little community because little's little, and all that kind of stuff. So another discussion for another day. But let's start getting into the those matches. Let's talk about those two, because those are the two that are just kind of like, all right, well, whatever, move out of the way kind of thing. Jade Cargill is defending the AEW TBS championship against Tay Conti. Of course, we've mentioned before, Tay Conti way, way, way better in AEW than she was in NXT. And I think if it wasn't on Jade Cargill, Tay Conti would make a pretty good TBS champion. But it's on Jade Cargill. So that's not happening. Cargill's definitely retaining here, and it should be fine. Hopefully short. And I can't see any other scenario other than Cargill pinning her.
Yeah, absolutely. You build on the streak that Jade Cargill is racking up. I think she's up to 28-0 now, so this will be 29. And yeah, she's the ideal person in terms of just pure star power and presence to have the championship right now. I would like Conti to win a title belt eventually in AEW, and I think she will do. It's just not the time right now. But it's good to put her up against some ranked competition. And I don't think it'll be necessarily super long, but I don't want it to be like ultra short as well.
Right.
Jade always has at least one moment or two in a match where things just go completely off the rails for a little bit. So I'm hoping that's kept to a minimum, but yeah, I still think it'll be pretty good.
Yeah, basically, I don't want to reiterate what Callum said too much, but I think it'll be pretty good, and it should be another test of how long can Jade Cargill go, and how good has Tay Conti really gotten?
Yeah, she'll put up a fight. She'll lose, but she'll look good in fighting somebody who is, nearly 30 matches deep in victory and towers over most of the roster and everything.
I know people may not play into this too much just because it's very much like embedded into wrestling media and stuff, but I think they should probably make a deal out of the fact that this is the Wrestling Observer newsletter's Rookie of the Year versus Newcomer of the Year. She's Rookie of the Year versus Most Improved of the Year. Jade Cargill against Conti. So they probably should play into that a little bit because AEW likes to lean into wrestling media more than WWE does.
Maybe at the very least, Excalibur will just mention it or something.
Yeah, they'll say it at least.
It adds a bit more meaning behind it because otherwise it's just like Jade Cargill versus Challenger.
Right. And I don't know about the rankings. I stopped following the rankings a long time ago, but Conti's probably close to the top of the rankings, if not maybe number one or something.
Yeah, I will pull up the rankings information because unlike Tony, I do keep track of the rankings.
I did a rankings thing every week for like a year, and then I was just kind of like, you know what?
AEW does that for you.
Yeah.
So as of last week, Tay was not in the top 5 as of last Wednesday. But, it is the TBS championship, and much like the TNT championship, perhaps it doesn't go by the ranking.
Mid-card, too. So.
Yeah. That's
Don't call it a mid-card belt unless you want to hear issues.
It's totally a mid-card belt. I'll hear those issues, but I'll hear people trying to defend something that's not true.
But it's totally fine as well because even though she's not ranked, I mean, Conti it was only a few months ago she was challenging Britt Baker. Was it Full Gear? Yeah, I think it was Full Gear. She fought for the women's title, right? Was it Full Gear or All Out? It was one of the two.
I think it was Full Gear.
It was Full Gear, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like Conti is one of the top people anyway. It's not like Cargill's fighting.
Sky Blue.
Yeah, somebody who's pretty much just on Dark Elevation or something. We're all going Cargill. That's not surprising at all. This Tornado Trios tag team match, you got Darby Allin, Sting, and Sammy Guevara instead of defending the TNT Championship. Speaking of mid-card titles, it is a mid-card title against the AHFO, which just needs to fuck OFF. Andrade, Idolo, Matt Hardy, and Isiah Kassidy because fucking whatever.
Because we're really spotlighting him as a singles.
Shouldn't this have just been Andrade and Matt against Darby Allin and Sting?
Well, apparently that was the original thing, but they needed Sammy to do. I wanted Sammy to do something as well.
Yeah,
so he's got to flip, bro.
Like, I don't know. To me, that would have been not that it would have been like, why it's not going to go on the buy-in, but like that would have been kind of cool. See Sammy Guevara defend the TNT title on the buy-in, and maybe that would be a good way to convince people because he's going to put on a hell of a show. Like, I'd do like Sammy Guevara versus who's free. At least right now, we don't know about like the missing spots, but like
he's already defended against Ethan Page. Though.
Did he do it against Sky?
He hasn't defended against Scorpio Sky.
Well, there you go. We figured it out.
Yeah, Sammy Guevara versus Scorpio Sky TNT title on the buy-in, and then you do Andrade and Matt against Darby and Sting like that.
But this puts less pressure on Sting as well.
True.
To be actively involved in this, and I think Isiah Kassidy has done pretty well in the when he's had to be put into a more like individual capacity. Like he's had a couple of TNT title matches himself.
Well, I would normally say, we know who's going to take the pin in this, and that it would be Isiah Kassidy, but I think it's going to be Matt.
It should, it should be Matt really, because I think that your hopes for this alignment to fall apart. It won't happen immediately, but the start of it will happen here.
Mm-hmm.
Because definitely the babyfaces should win. Everyone loves Sting, and Darby and Sammy are two of the top babyfaces as well.
As of next Saturday, Jeff Hardy's free.
Exactly.
And clearly going to AEW, despite the fact that even after he says it, he goes, you guys, fuck you guys.
Hey, listen, I want you to know, Tony Khan said on the media call today, nobody should think it's a foregone conclusion that Jeff Hardy is going to AEW. So there.
Absolutely.
You know what? It kind of makes me want it to not happen now, just to be like, wah, wah, wah. Like, yeah.
So, yeah, but this will be fun. I get your point in saying that it doesn't necessarily need to be on this show because it's just a tornado tag match with no stakes attached to it beyond just, okay, they've been feuding for a little while, so let's put all these together. But it's just going to be fun. It's just going to be a fun 10, 15 minutes and just people flying about all over the place. I like the fact that it's a tornado tag match. That means it's going to be even more chaotic.
I really hope it doesn't overstay its welcome.
No, the match won't overstay its welcome. Problem with this match is it's probably going to be slotted on the show during a time when you're already feeling like the show has overstayed its welcome.
True. Yeah, there's other matches that might end up going a little bit where it's like, all right, this didn't need to be 22 minutes or something. Yeah.
Listen, it gets Sting on the card, and it's going to be good. And I'm willing to take out, my own bias regarding covering it and being tired in that way and say, it'll be a fun show. And I'm sure a lot of people will just have fun with all of it. So good on them. Obviously, babyfaces win. Yeah, Sting will probably look like $1 million. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't imagine any other scenario other than the babyfaces winning this. If that doesn't happen, that'll be one of the most shocking results of the night for me.
Yeah. Definitely a babyface win for me.
So, where should we go next? What do you pick?
Ladder match.
We'll go ladder match.
All right, cool then. We're going with the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Right now, we are still missing one more person that is going to be competing, but it's currently Keith Lee, Orange Cassidy, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, and Wardlow, and TBD. We could have somebody on the roster right now. We could have a special, Cesaro type, or Swerve could show up and he could be the last person or something. First question, of course, who do you think is going to be that last person?
Swerve.
Fully agreed.
Yeah, I said on the hot tags, hey, listen, I'm sure it's Swerve, but if Cesaro is there, it should be Cesaro. I stand by that, but I don't think they'll deviate from the plan. I think it'll be Swerve.
Yeah, I wrote a whole article up about how it needs to be Cesaro grabbing the brass ring because it just makes perfect sense, but I don't think that was, of course, the plan because I don't think that they had that sort of short notice. I think it's going to be Swerve. I think he's not only going to be that last person, but he's also going to win the match. And
nope. Well, I don't think so, but you can go with that.
They don't always go with this thing. And if anything, they tend not to go with that surprise person winning, but it's still hard.
Brian Cage.
Probably. Yeah. Unless you count maybe Paige winning the Casino Battle Royale, but that wasn't really like a Swerve
I had Ruby
person.
Riott win the women's one, so on her debut.
So it's
obviously
like
Casino Battle Royal, so.
But like they had like Christian, for instance, and he came up short. And like they've had like different things where they've gone in different directions. So it's certainly not outside of the realm of possibility that it's someone else. But I do think that Swerve makes a lot of sense. And when I'm looking at the rest of these people, this is for a TNT title match. I look at an Orange Cassidy and I go, he's here because he's Orange Cassidy. He's not going to win. I don't think so, right? Ricky Starks has that FTW championship. And if I'm the booker, which of course I'm not, but maybe Tony Khan disagrees. If I'm the booker, I'm like, you know what? He's got the FTW title. I don't need to have him fighting for another title to just mix things up a little bit. I would rather focus on potentially building something else with that. So I don't think it's going to be Ricky Starks. Do either of you guys?
No, I don't think it'll be Ricky.
With Keith Lee, yeah,
he will win the match.
He's got a good chance, but I don't want him to win. Funny enough,
I don't care what you want.
And like, because if it's Keith Lee versus Sammy Guevara, then I want Keith Lee to win the TNT title, and I don't think Sammy's losing it. So I don't want to see Sammy beat Keith Lee and then have Keith Lee have nowhere to go. Apologies for the sirens. It's happening again.
Yeah, they're coming for you because you're like, I don't want Keith Lee to win. That's what's
as much as I've talked about Keith Lee being a guy that I want to be just, win almost everything, this is not one of the one scenarios that I want him to win. And the same thing goes for Wardlow for me. I don't want Wardlow to win this and then come up short. If Wardlow can win this and win the TNT title, I'm down for that. Politics for the sirens. It's happening again.
Yeah,
But I
You
don't
know
think
what?
that's necessarily happening.
You
I
know
think
what
that's gonna
though?
happen.
Yeah, because Wardlow's got the built-in story that he has to give the belt to MJF.
That's what I think is the most interesting dynamic about this entire thing, because that's part of the reason why if I'd have been on the hot tags, I would have completely disagreed with both you two when I said that they should bring Cesaro in just immediately, derail all plans, bring Cesaro in, brass ring, that one thing that maybe like 10,000 people saw on that Stone Cold podcast, and just like go in that entire direction. No, it's just Cesaro would be a great acquisition at some point for the company if he decides to come in. But I think that the logical thing is Wardlow wins the championship. Wardlow is the hot hand right now. He's been the guy that's been built up every single week with quick victories. He's getting you have to imagine a monster babyface turn is on the horizon. But I think it's going to be quite interesting to see him potentially win this maybe a couple of weeks down the line. Then he faces Sammy Guevara, wins the championship, and then there's this big power struggle between him and MJF. I mean, realistically, I see Wardlow win the championship, but MJF becomes champion after that.
Yeah.
And then we start to feed it a little bit more. It gets a little bit closer to the point where Double or Nothing. You've got Wardlow and MJF.
And I think the reason I jumped the gun there and said Keith Lee is because I keep forgetting that Wardlow story is built in already, that it's in his contract. He wins the title, he must forfeit it to MJF. And that's just a great way to transition MJF out of the feud with Punk and into the next new thing. And yeah, I think that is probably going to be how it goes now that I've had time to think about it.
See, as much as that makes perfect sense, and it sounds ridiculous to say, but I don't think it'll happen because it's, logically, that's how things should go. Part of me goes, I think just maybe Powerhouse Hobbs might win, and he just fights Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, you're
that's
poisoned.
the end of it. Like,
you're poisoned by WWE.
Right, yeah, and it's hard to get out of that mentality because I'm just like, well, maybe they do the Wardlow match with Sammy Guevara at Double or Nothing. And this just stretches it out. And it's different companies, and they book things. Of course, AEW is not perfect, but they do tend to book things way, way, way more logically, where it's just like, of course, Hangman Adam Page was the guy that beats Kenny Omega. Why the fuck wouldn't he, But then that also makes me go, but then why wouldn't MJF be the guy that beats Page? And if MJF gets the TNT title, then that kind of puts a twist on everything for me.
I mean, I don't think that it's unrealistic for that to put a little bit of damper in the works. I don't think we need to necessarily think that MJF's beating, if he does end up beating Hangman Page for the title, again, we'll talk about Page when we get to his match, but if he does, then it doesn't necessarily need to be a Double or Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even necessarily need to be all out.
Right.
It doesn't even need to necessarily be this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of MJF is in that rarefied situation where he's kind of must-watch TV to the point where he doesn't need the championship, but eventually he does.
Yeah.
He does need to be champion at one point, but at the moment, everyone enjoys his segments and his feuds as it is, so. And giving him the TNT title is a good just little step up, especially if he doesn't have to win the title to get the title. And
for the record, I don't think that MJF versus Page would be happening at Double or Nothing either. I think that would be all out at the very earliest.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ways we go. Realistically, the Wardlow and Sami Zayn thing could happen, as you say, at Double or Nothing, because the winner of this match is
Sammy Guevara, not Sami Zayn.
Sammy Guevara, yeah.
That'd be a hell of a twist.
That'd be hell. Yeah, that'd be really.
That's merging the Intercontinental title with another mid-card title of the TNT.
But so the match with Guevara doesn't have to happen in the coming weeks. It doesn't have to happen as a fallout of this match, because I mean, the guys that have won the Faces of Revolution at the match, no one has then gone on to win the championship.
Right. Well, there was only the one, right?
No, they've had so Cage won it to challenge
He won the
There's only
casino
been one
ladder
phase
match.
of the Revolution ladder
Oh yeah,
match.
casino.
Yeah,
Oh
it
yeah,
was only
casino.
last year.
Oh yeah, it's casino ladder match. I forget they have like different approaches to it as well. So they've only had one, and it was just Scorpio Sky, and it was just for. Well, it was there for him to lose the match, but then turn heel afterwards. So it did serve somewhat of a purpose. So yeah, you could use it to just immediately elevate someone like Swerve if that's the guy who's coming in, or give Powerhouse Hobbs a big match. I think Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks are in this match to mainly interact with Keith Lee, because they're sowing the seeds of Keith Lee challenging Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship.
I'm cool with that. And
Yeah,
then Hobbs can be
I'd
the
be
guy
down.
that's the two big men against each other. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think that would be so I think that those three are going to kind of cancel each other out. Orange Cassidy is there to be Orange Cassidy. I think they'll tease a lot of Orange Cassidy potentially winning, but he's just kind of, oddly enough, he's the odd man out of this entire thing, even though he's one of the most over people in the company.
Yeah, but he's there to be the top, like, fan favorite baby face. That's, you got to put him on the card kind of thing. Yeah.
But yeah, if I was to rank the people, I'd probably put. I've currently got Wardlow at number 1, and then whoever TBD is number 2, and then I'd probably go probably Cassidy, just because he's got nothing else to do at the moment, so it makes more sense. And then Lee, Hobbs, and Starks.
Oh, of course, we are going to find out TBD tonight, I would hope. We might not. I mean, maybe they just announced that it's going to be, a special Joker person or something like that. But, if we find that out, that might change things. And if we do, we'll address that on the hot tags. But at the current state, if you had to make a pick, you're going Wardlow, Callum?
Yeah, I'll stick to my guns with that.
And you're going Keith Lee, Rob, or you're going Wardlow?
I'll double up and say Wardlow. Wardlow makes too much sense.
Yeah, after this discussion, I'm kind of leaning more towards Wardlow as well. So, you won me over with that. Number 2 being Swerve if he shows up. I mean, if it's
number 2 would be Keith Lee, because I do think there's a lot there.
Let's take that transition though and go into, since we were talking about MJF, let's talk about the dog collar match. MJF versus CM Punk. This is a dog collar match largely because they've been referencing Rowdy Piper as much and everything. And of course, he had his classic with Greg Valentine. So I'm very interested to see why they're going with a dog collar match beyond that point. Like if they have anything in mind of like cool things that they can do, or, a good story that they can tell along the way with that. I've gushed already about the promo. That babyface MJF promo I thought was just absolutely brilliant. So they took a feud that I was like, all right, I'm into it. Like it's Punk versus MJF. Like the speaking segments have been great and everything, but we did kind of see it. So not as in dog collar match. I don't really know. And then it became, oh fuck, I'm back in. So I'm very excited to see what's going on here. And I have to change my thing on the website because I actually didn't update this in the past couple of days. I think MJF wins.
So this feud is amazing. Like it's already front runner for me for feud of the year or story of the year, or wherever you want to term it. Eventually, of course, there's a lot of the year left to go, but I think it's going to be damn hard to top this one. What they've done so far has been fantastic. The dog collar stipulation makes perfect sense with the way that Punk described it, about how it makes sure that MJF can't escape or get away from this. MJF, since the dog collar announcement was made, has changed his attitude and cut that fantastic promo last week. And I'm interested to see what dynamic how that changes the match itself. Is it mean that Punk is going to be booed to a degree by people? Is it going to like change things around a little bit? It's added layers into it, which is great. I kind of, when I initially saw the MJ promo, I was a little bit like on the fence about it, just because I kind of like my villains to be a bit one-dimensional, because it's hard to the thing I always go towards for this is Beauty and the Beast. And the reason why I do that is because Gaston's song makes him absolutely hateable. Like, he is the most hateable, despisable person you want to do, because all he talks about is how good he is. And then if at one point halfway through the movie he cuts a very moving song about how he's been in love with Belle since he was a child and how he was bullied so much at school that led him to be super strong, I'd feel slightly more conflicted about him dying at the end.
Yeah,
So
to be fair, I've always thought Gaston was kind of the babyface. But I always root for the jerks.
Yeah, hold on. First of all, Tony is a terrible person. Second of all,
I'm like, you got a guy that's as handsome and muscular and everything as Gaston here. He seems like he's got the town wrapped around his fingers. Come on, Belle, what are you gonna do? He can give you so many books to read.
God, I can't wait for that eventual Disney music thing that we do. But go ahead, Callum.
Well, it's to say that now that the layer that could potentially add to this, the wrinkles that could add both in this match and then going forward, because now we've seen the different side of MJF. Now we know, okay, MJF's going to be a babyface at some point in his time in AEW, and he's going to be the top babyface in the company when he does do it as well. This guy is the top heel and potentially future top babyface of AEW. That is just, yeah, this guy has the wrestling world in the palm of his hand, and we're watching it unfold. And this match will be great as well. I like the old school nature of it. The dog collar has become something of an AEW staple now, because now this is the second time they're pulling it out after the Cody and Brody Lee match. So I think that this is something they're going to keep coming back to maybe once every year and a half, something like that. Someone's going to have a feud that merits this type of stipulation. And I think CM Punk wins the match because MJF's already got the 2 wins over him. I think Punk needs to still be positioned as someone that could soon be challenging for the AEW Championship. And I think if MJF is being pulled into this TNT title situation with Wardlow, then he doesn't necessarily need to win this match.
It's true. I mean, especially if it ends up being one of those things where it's like, because the last thing that we had seen, I mean, depending on what happens tonight, might change things a little bit. But the last thing we had seen from that promo was CM Punk coming out and asking, was that true? And acting like he bought it. If you want to play around and,
you know, buy it. It's
go,
real.
I mean, it is real, yeah. But like, that kind of makes it seem like, oh, Punk's falling for it kind of thing. And if you want to play into the idea that Punk's seen and done everything already, and it's like, yeah, that's part of my playbook, then he could be like, you know, I don't care if that's true or not. I'm still going to fucking beat you, kid. And just sort of like, because there is the potential that MJF just goes like, you all bought that, like that stuff really bothered me. It really didn't, you know, they could do some kind of swerve thing like that.
I hope not. Yeah, I hope not.
And then, you know, Punk could just kind of be like, yeah. And you know what? It's still, you know, checks and championships, kid. That's another lesson I'm teaching you or something. You know, like they could do something where Punk wins and it's, you know, you thought you were outsmarting a guy who outsmarts people all the time. Either way, if Punk wins or MJF wins, I got a feeling I'm still going to be happy about it.
Oh yeah, I think it's the match I'm so looking forward to. But
it's so different
about it now.
It's so different to be like, no matter what happens, the match is going to be good and the feud's interesting and I'll be happy, than to be like, I don't want to spit through the next 5 weeks worth of the build to WrestleMania because the only thing is going to suck and I'm going to hate it. You know?
We don't talk about that company here.
Listen, as you guys have said, this story has been perfectly built. They did add the wrinkle of, oh, is MJF a babyface? And no, I mean, he's not. You know, lots of great villains have the origin story of, I was bullied. But hey, if you take that out on everybody, you're still a prick. You know? You don't get to just gaslight everybody and be like, oh, I was bullied, so there's my out. I'm actually the good guy here.
Yeah.
Yes, CM Punk is also an asshole. But he's already at the stage where he's grown and matured. So you still want to see him kick MJF's ass. I think there's a possibility MJF wins just to swerve people and say, like, look, MJF is rock solid. Because typically with his feuds, they do this thing where he always wins and then he always has to give it right back. And I think Punk could be the guy to go, no, you beat me because you need to be at that level. But it's also a hell of a pay-per-view to send the crowd home happy with, CM Punk having beaten MJF, and I don't think that they do any kind of double turn. I think Punk stays babyface. I think he beats MJF. I think maybe that there's a sign of respect between them, and I think they go their separate ways.
You're thinking there's a potential that it ends with MJF even more of a babyface?
No, I think that they can show respect to one another
without
it
going
being
in there.
like, Max is a full babyface now, because if he's got the Wardlow story next, he's definitely not. But Punk can at least acknowledge, hey, you're a tough son of a bitch.
I think MJF passes out in the
Anaconda Vice for the chain.
Yeah, Anaconda Vice. Yeah.
I would,
because he's already said he's not going to give up.
I would,
and I believe
sign
it.
off
and
on
I believe
that as well.
Yeah, and I believe him when he says that.
That's a good way of doing it. I like that.
I want him to pass out while giving the middle finger to him.
Oh, that'd be even better. Yeah. Let's go Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho. This, you know what? Actually, the fact that I was just going to say, I think that Chris Jericho is winning this. I think I might have to go back with Punk winning the MJF thing, because now I'm looking at him like, I think I have too many heels winning on my predictions. But Jericho currently right now has been having some spats with the rest of the inner circle. Not so much two of the members. It's really Santana and Ortiz, because Sammy Guevara is like, yeah, fuck all this. Remember how we were supposed to split up and then we didn't? Well, let's break up anyway. And Jake Hager's just not there. So Santana and Ortiz have their issues with Jericho. They rightfully called out the idea, why are we always doing everything for you and you're not doing anything for us? Eddie Kingston's our friend. Why are you bitching, complaining about him all the time? Kingston is coming into this as the underdog, not only because Jericho's done so much in his career, but Jericho firmly put him down as, you have to prove to me that you're worth facing me, essentially. And Kingston said, give me the version of Jericho that's like, the ass kicker type of version and everything. It's not as good as I was hoping that it would be. I don't think it's anywhere as good as what probably Jericho and Kingston think that it was be, as far as my personal tastes. But I'm still interested to see it. And I think that it's overall simple but effective. And this is one of those matches that I'm glad it is on the card instead of just being on Dynamite, because then, to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't care as much if it wasn't on the card. If it was just on Rampage, it's Kingston versus Jericho, I'd be like, well, I can half pay attention to it. I'll pay a lot more attention to it now it's on a pay-per-view. And I'm hoping, unless the direction is something other than what I'm thinking, I'm hoping that Jericho wins by cheating so that he can just turn heel, because I'm getting the sense that he's tired of being a babyface.
So I'm looking forward to this because I've enjoyed the promo battles between the two of them so far. I like the fact that Jericho's character has become somewhat insufferable because it's helping leading into the heel turn that will invariably happen. It means that he will get booed when it does finally take place. And it's kind of in the transition right now. And Eddie Kingston is one of the top baby faces and one of the most beloved people in AEW right now. So I see him getting the favor of the crowd over Jericho anyway. Jericho will wrestle this heel, or as heel as he can at this point. I also would like to see Jericho win this match because I think a one and done match with Kingston is not the way to go. I think it should be a feud, and I think it should extend over a couple of, maybe even 3 matches, maybe 2, maybe 3. It could be either way. I think you have Jericho win this one, and you continue to have Jericho spin the narrative that Kingston can't win the big one, because that's the whole thing that's going around it. And Kingston falling to Jericho continues that side of things, but Kingston just gets coming back, fights Jericho at some point in the next couple of months, and again, or in the next month or so, and loses that one. But Jericho clearly cheats to win in that one. Like, Kingston has him beat, and Jericho then uses Floyd or does a low blow or something along those lines, and then immediately cheats to win that one. And so fully is heel now. Fully is back to his heel roots. And then Kingston wins the final match, finally gets the big victory at Double or Nothing. I think it will mean a lot more if Kingston has to overcome some bumps along the way to beat Jericho. And Jericho typically doesn't do one and done feuds in AEW. Like Cassidy, he went like 3 rounds with. So I think he wants to stretch it out to give Kingston eventually that big win, that crowning moment at Double or Nothing.
And it makes so much more sense if it's Kingston wins a match that's like some kind of a gimmick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's too quick and too easy for have Kingston just immediately win this one.
This is where I would say that the way that they booked Kingston in the past works against them here. Because he could just drag it out, but they've avoided giving Kingston so many big wins that I don't think they can drag it out.
That's the point.
But I don't think that's why I think Kingston needs to win. Because they constantly give him, you can't beat this one, you can't beat that one. I think if it's Jericho, people just want to see Jericho get punched in the mouth. Worry about turning him later. I mean, he's already turned in the mind of most people anyway.
Well, you know what's funny about this whole Kingston and Santana and Ortiz thing? Santana and Ortiz started this off by talking about how come we are never given these tag team title shots and stuff, and they still haven't. So it's just, this feud is still just all about Jericho. And Kingston has had like 4 factions. This guy just keeps bouncing around to the point where I'm like, I guess the next one is Kingston and Santana and Ortiz. And I'd rather that happen sooner than later, because it seems like we're doing something, which the next match we'll talk about. Jon Moxley's moving away from Eddie Kingston and focusing more on Bryan Danielson. So if Kingston's going to be not tagging with Moxley anytime soon, and he can be with Santana and Ortiz, that can make a lot of sense. And we could get like, I don't know if they would bother to do something where they would have Jericho turn heel directly here, but I kind of want to skip to that a little bit. I think that this can stretch out to, because Double or Nothing's beginning of May, right? It's beginning of May, or is it middle of May?
Beginning or mid-May, I think.
Let me just double check that real quick, because that could be a difference maker. It's May 29th, actually. It's the very end.
Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe that doesn't work as well. Because I was going to say, if you've only got a couple...
They are pretty good at stretching stuff out.
They're usually either really good at stretching it out, or they just rush. Like, we'll talk about Cage and... or Paige and Cole. But like this could go out to Double or Nothing.
Maybe it just starts here and it could go out to Double or Nothing. Maybe it just starts here and it ends just on a big episode of Dynamite they do. Because
currently there's not anything announced in between Revolution and Double or Nothing, but that doesn't mean that they don't just, hey, surprise, something else is like the Battle of the Belts is coming on April 15th. Fyter Fest is of course sometime in June or July. But maybe they just go, okay, well, the April 3rd edition, or the, Battle of the Belts is the 15th, but then it's Battle of the Belts, so you can't really do that. There's no title
I think you're trying so hard to like apply any sense of logic that you already understand from wrestling, and AEW regularly changes things up and flips the script, so it's not worth trying to plan things out like that.
Well, we're applying logic to this one because it makes actual wrestling sense to stretch this out.
Yeah, but I think he's trying to apply the logic of like,
how do you get around not, like that kind of thing. Yeah. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the most important thing is, I agree, there needs to be 2, if not 3 matches. And I actually kind of think that it might be better off with just 2. Maybe not necessarily 3. I'd like to see Jericho win this one by cheating, Kingston win a match where he just wins like the no holds barred street fight, whatever you want to do. And then maybe that's it. But in order for Kingston to be an effective babyface, he needs to lose this and not just immediately win. Because then what's the story? I guess the story technically could be Jericho's mad that he won, and then that becomes a more bitter feud or something. But I think I'd rather go the traditional route and Maybe in the third match, maybe it's the three of them against Jericho and Hager and someone or something. Or Jericho gets a new team of somebody to fuck around with, or I don't know, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think that, I kind of agree with you in the sense that even if Kingston wins here, I kind of feel like, well, what's next, really? Because really, even if Kingston does win, the person that will kind of unravel and build off of this will be Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
Because he'll be upset about losing, even if it doesn't lead to another match. He'll get more spotlight out of the back of it. Whereas I think you need to use this to get Kingston over, and I think just having Kingston beat Jericho in their first encounter doesn't actually achieve that role. He just goes back to being, hey, he's Eddie Kingston, team with Santana Ortiz, occasionally coming out getting a good pop. It's like nothing really changes, I think, for Kingston if he wins this.
I would like to see Kingston in a position where after beating Jericho, that he is somebody who can challenge TNT champion MJF if we go in that route.
Oh, yeah, I'd be happy with that.
That'd be cool.
Definitely.
So yeah, I'm currently going Jericho winning this match, and sounds like you
Jericho.
guys kind of are in agreement.
Well,
I'm
no,
gonna
Jericho,
go Kingston.
Yeah. Rob still thinks that Kingston needs to win this one, which I can understand because he has lost a lot, but I just don't think that him beating Jericho first time out really does anything for him.
So let's go with the Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley match.
Oh, this is so good.
My entire write-up of this just on smark.moment.com is "This will rock." Enough said. it's gonna be good.
It's so exciting because it's like this has just come out of nowhere, really, and it just when Moxley came back, we saw the like little snippets of Danielson like standing around like watching Moxley matches, or Moxley walks past him when the match is over and stuff like that. They're like, oh, cool, they're going to build up a match to this, and then they went in a completely different direction and made it 10 times better. Like saying that Danielson doesn't want to just fight Moxley, or doesn't want to fight Moxley. He wants to team with Moxley. And now Moxley's basically being very coy about the whole situation about, well, I'm not saying yes and I'm not saying no, but if you do want to team with us, then we got to fight first. And it's just so good because there's so many different directions they can go with this. This is the perfect example of it's sometimes okay to have your cake and eat it too. Because it was one thing they could have done. They could have gone with the faction, or they could have gone with the match. And they've decided, fuck it, why not both? And just do the match, then the faction. And that will suit me down to the ground.
And either person can win and it makes sense. Absolutely. If Danielson wins, it's like, see, I put up a great fight and I beat you, and that's all the more reason why you should team with me, because I've got something that you are missing and we can put things together and whatever. If Moxley wins, as long as Danielson puts up a good enough fight, it could be like, I won, but you know what? You took me to the edge and I respect you for it, so let's team up.
I think, actually, you talk a little bit, Rob, before I talk about the finish, or what I think should happen.
Well, I think that this fucking match is gonna rock. I think, obviously, you can't mention it because it's like WWE TV stuff, but it would have been cool if you could have gotten in like, hey, when I had authority, like when Bryan was the SmackDown GM, you made sure Moxley was his first pick. You made sure Moxley was his champion. Like, they have such a great story together, and I really think that this will be the best that they could have ever done. And Bryan is on another level, and Moxley is maybe as good as he's ever been right now. I'm so excited to see these two beat the shit out of each other, and you don't get that a lot in modern wrestling. And I think that they're going to tear it down. And yeah, I do think they're going to end up teaming at the end of this.
So I think Danielson should win this match. The reason why I believe he should is also due to the whole story they've been telling, is the fact that Moxley's never beaten Danielson before. And part of that, I think that you have Danielson win, Moxley decides, okay, we've bled together, we fought together, I want to lead this faction. They get their faction together, they get their Daniel Garcias and their Lee Moriarty's, and pick up a few other people, maybe tagging a Cesaro as another veteran into there as well, get a bit of Claudio in there.
You have Cesaro, you've got to, hey, listen, if Moxley doesn't want to run the dojo, maybe Joe does, Joe's out there.
Yeah. You got I've always been hoping that Shota Umino comes back. Instead, like just decides, okay, I'm not going to be in New Japan anymore. I'm just going to come with Moxley and be Shooter. That'd be great. But I think that you do that, and then you have the faction run for a while. They have the success that they have for however many months you decide to run with that, and the faction, not necessarily ends, but the Moxley Danielson dynamic ends with Moxley turning heel on Danielson, and then you have Moxley be the heel head of that faction. You have him beat Bryan Danielson, have Bryan Danielson go on a bit of a redemption arc after that. And my ideal situation is that sometime in either 2023 or 2024, Danielson beats Moxley for the AEW championship.
Man, I just hope Danielson is wrestling 2 years from now. Like,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
no,
don't
that's always
take
the hope.
anything for granted with this guy. Okay, and I think it's amazing that he's doing what he's doing, because it wasn't that long ago that we were told for years he'll never do it again. And I'm just glad that we get to see it. I guess that's all I can say, is just like, yay, wrestling, you know?
You're more grateful, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also with this faction, if they are putting these two factions together, have Serena Deeb be the women's equivalent of them, and have her build up a faction of shooter women.
Layla Hirsch. If she's not in Team Taz.
Oh yeah, Layla Hirsch. Yeah, Serena Deeb and Layla Hirsch and maybe, I don't know if is there anyone else that you know of that would fit into that thing? Don't you dare say
the women?
The women?
The women.
I was going to say don't say Nicole Savoy.
Oh no. God, I wish Deanna wasn't under contract to Impact, because she'd be fantastic. But I can't think of any women that are like available right now.
They're kind of more of the grappler side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, Mia Yim would be a good fit, but seemingly she doesn't. There seems to be a bit of at odds between.
I mean, like Allison Kay too, you know. She'd be a pretty good addition.
But then, of course, you got to worry about not having too many people in the stable too. If they've got 3 or 4 women and 4, 5 guys or something, then it's huge.
I think it could work, as long as you keep them. Obviously, that you keep them like united as a unit, but you keep them separate in the fact that, like, the women do the women's segment stuff and the men do the men's stuff, and they only come together for like combined promo segments once every like month or so. I think that could work.
I'm currently 50-50 on the winner here.
Mercedes. Put Mercedes in there.
Hell yeah.
I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards Moxley at the moment, but I got a feeling that, by the end of the day, I could just be Danielson. It's really a coin flip for me.
Yeah, it's hard to pick this one. I'm just going with the vision that I've concocted in my mind, but damn it, Tony Khan will probably think of something even better. So
it is fun though. Like, that's such a big difference when it comes to repeat versus I'm okay with seeing it again. We have seen Danielson versus Moxley, but we haven't seen Danielson versus Moxley.
And we haven't really seen. When's the last time these two had a singles match?
Right. It's been long enough, and it was under the WWE banner, so of course they've got those shackles, and it's Daniel Bryan versus Dean Ambrose. So that's where it's like, yeah, I've seen it before, but I haven't seen it before, as opposed to things like, the Charlotte and Ronda thing, which we'll be talking about, and it'll just be like, oh my God, I don't fucking care, So what do we have left? We have 2 matches left, or no, 3?
3 matches.
Man, this is a long card. 3-way tag team match for the World Tag Team Championship. We got Jurassic Express and reDRagon and TBD. Tonight, we're going to find out who that final team is with the Casino Tag Team Battle Royal.
I'd imagine it's the Bucks. I mean, are we all in agreement there?
It makes sense if it's the Bucks, but then I could also see them trying to pivot and not quite doing that yet.
Yeah. So I think the Bucks are the favourites, obviously, to be the third team in it because, well, first of all, it would make the match awesome already. It's already good with the teams involved, but it'll make it even better. And there's obviously an inbuilt story between them and reDRagon. My other options would be Santana and Ortiz, just because they've been telling that story about them not getting a title opportunity, and it would make sense for them to then stay away from the Jericho Kingston match, make that more just one-on-one, or Jericho and Hager with Hager in his corner and Kingston on his own, or it could be the Kings of the Black Throne.
I wasn't even thinking them. So yeah, I think if it's not the Bucks, I think it's the Acclaimed because they've been number 1 ranked for God knows how long.
Funny enough, we're all in different directions here. I'm thinking if it's not the Bucks, it's FTR.
But you know what though? I mean, that's
this is
the beauty of it.
this is the beauty of a really strong tag team division.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be Dark Order for that matter, especially if you want to have either Jurassic Express pin them or reDRagon pin them.
Yeah,
it could be fucking the Gun Club for all we know.
What's the advantage of having it in a? Hopefully, it's not the Gun Club.
Hopefully,
but
yeah, I can agree with that.
But it's the advantage of doing it in a casino battle royal, and the battle royal format is the fact that it could legitimately be anybody because anyone can win those matches.
Could be Bear Country for all the fuck you know. Like it just could literally be anybody.
I'm quite interested about the cluster that is going to be. So how do we know how this casino battle royal is going to work? Because
I think they've done it before, right?
Yeah, but you get a sense of like, so there's 21 people, or there's 21 teams. Do they have 21 tag teams?
I don't think it'll be 21. I think it'll be an odd number, but I don't think it's 21. Unless they do it by members. Because then maybe they have,
But that's an odd number. It can't be an odd, only one representative of this tag team will be in this match. I think they could probably do 21 tag teams.
That'd be amazing.
I think it'll be a stretch. I don't know if I can name all 21 tag teams off the top of my head, but like you've got.
So at least according to Wikipedia, it says 15 teams.
Okay, that's what it's saying right now. What is it? How many they have, or?
That's just the Wikipedia entry for Casino Tag Team Royale.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if it's 15 teams, then that's fine then. Don't know how that splits into full groups of Weather Suit and then the Joker, but I guess we'll find out. But yeah, they've got enough teams to fill if it's 15, and yeah, there could be a lot of different options. But obviously, the thematic choice would be the Bucks because they can all fight against each other. You can have instances of reDRagon and the Bucks teaming early on, and then splinters start to form, and then you go into this whole actual freeway match. The Bucks realistically last year, and I think even the last 2 years, have some of the highest quality in terms of just average matches. Like go from match to match to match. The Bucks rarely have a bad match, so this would be great as well. And you basically just lead into a situation where reDRagon and the Bucks pretty much cancel each other out, and Jurassic Express retains due to that.
So I'm hoping that it's 12 teams, where it's the 4 suits or groups of 3, and then you've got the 13th team is the Joker one. That's what I'm kind of hoping, because that's definitely got. I mean, just counting some of those teams we've mentioned, that's the Acclaimed, FTR, Bear Country, Bucks,
the Ass Boys,
Gun Club. I don't think that the House of Black's going to be represented here, but there's a possibility. You could do Death Triangle. You could do the Butcher and the Blade. You've got the other members of Best Friends. You've got 2.0. That's 10 right there. You got 2 at
Chaos
least.
Project.
Yeah, Chaos Project. You've got at least 2 different versions, if not 3 or 4 of 3 of Dark Order.
You got
Team Taz,
Varsity Blondes.
Varsity Blonde, yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't do Team Taz probably because the 2 already in the match.
The Side Owls.
Side Owls.
Santana and Ortiz.
Like
didn't count them.
Men of the Year.
Men of the Year as well, yeah. And then you could also, of course, just bring in like some other sort of team where it's like, this is technically speaking that I don't think they would do it, but it's like, this is VSK and Ryzen or something. Fucking, I don't know. I guess you could do like Aaron Solo and Nakamura or something, or But yeah, they could do even something like that. It could be like a pretty interesting swerve. I don't think Swerve's going to be in this, by the way.
No. Unless it's Swerve and Ashanti.
Oh.
I doubt it.
I don't
because
I don't think
I
so,
doubt
but
it because they're doing bookings, they being the other 3 members of Hit Row, and they're not doing them. Swerve's doing his own thing right now.
it's, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. He did do an interview recently where he was talking about like that he wants to try to make sure Shanti has a better career or something. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. I think he's more likely going to be in the ladder match, but
yeah, I think so too.
I am currently leaning towards the Bucks just because it is the thing that makes the most sense. But there's a big part of me that's just like, but why would you do it now? And again, it's that whole like, why don't you stretch it out? Because I kind of think Bucks versus reDRagon for Double or Nothing. Or, reDRagon and Cole versus Bucks and Omega. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm thinking as well. But that's the beauty of having it in a three-way tag match. In this one, is you get a taste of reDRagon versus the Young Bucks, but you don't get the full experience.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not like they haven't done it a bunch of times as is. Like, we're not really saving a hey, this hasn't been seen in a while kind of thing.
I think fundamentally, despite the fact that we don't know who the third team is, I'm pretty confident Jurassic Express are going to retain.
Yeah, I'm kind of... See, this is where I'm kind of thinking that maybe it's somebody like an FTR, because they could do something where it's like, say the final 2 teams are FTR and the Bucks, and reDRagon's out there, and they are quote unquote there to cheer on the Bucks. And something happens, FTR wins, and it's like, yo, you guys just cost us that or whatever, and this happened last week, and this is a problem, and whatever. And then it'll be like, oh, but that's cool though. Like Adam Cole can be like, oh, well, there's problems, but let's cheer on our boys, reDRagon, in this match. And then somebody like FTR loses, Jurassic Express retains, reDRagon gets a tag team title shot beyond that. They win the belts over the course of the next time until Double or Nothing, and then we get tag title match or something. Like, that's where I can kind of see that. It's kind of weird that this is happening, the 3-way thing, and we've got like Christian on the outside. We don't have Marco Stunt anymore, and we've got all these like potential trio things, but we don't have that trios belt yet. Doesn't it kind of seem like that should be when that happens,
It will come, I think, this year. It has to. But then again, I probably thought that last year as well, and it didn't.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I just feel like it's completely. It would be ludicrous if they didn't create a 6-man tag titles at some point. It's just
Tony just said that they're doing it. They're waiting for Kenny to come back.
Did you, Tony?
Yes. So then maybe that's what this transitions for. Maybe it's Jurassic Express keeps retaining, and then the trios belt is where we get the trios tag titles at Double or Nothing, and that's where this comes out. And then Jurassic Express just keeps it here, and it's Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy against Santana and Ortiz down the line or something.
I think that's the direction they're going to go in, to have. Or there's one of 2 directions: either Santana and Ortiz finally get to win the title, or they'll run with the Kings of the Black Throne.
Yeah,
some combination of that But I could see them being trios champions as well.
That makes sense.
So they have so many trios. Get the belts.
Yeah, Jurassic Express though, I do think that they are retaining.
That's why I kind of think it will be the Acclaimed, just because gets them on a pay-per-view. They can lose. I mean, I'd much rather see, reDRagon and the Bucks, and I'd much rather see reDRagon win, quite frankly, because I will never not want the Undisputed Era to be champions. But I do think it makes sense to have Jurassic Express pin the other guys. In this case, whoever that is.
That's going to be the new tag team, the other guys. This is going to be 2 random people. It's going to be Who's It and what's his name?
Who are the other guys? Is that Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg?
There you go.
See, now that's a celebrity tie-in. That's
yeah, exactly.
It's around the same dated sort of timeline that WWE would be like, hey, how about we get?
Hey, if you could get The Rock and Samuel Jackson teaming, wouldn't you?
I mean, that's timeless.
Yeah, exactly.
Then again, that's also because the 2 of them, they age like pretty well. So you just be like, Sam Jackson looks the same that he did at the beginning of the MCU. Yep. Let's go over to the AEW Women's World Championship match. Dr. Britt Baker, D.M.D. Hopefully you did the little hand sign. Is defending against Thunder Rosa. And I gotta be honest, I'm not as into this as I was hoping that I would have been a few months ago. Because it seems like they were just sort of like, you remember that? That this is something that just, they fell to the wayside.
This feels like the one that they rushed. Like, it's the one that they were like, oh, well, this card is so stacked. Let's just do this so that we can say we did it.
Are you guys getting the same feeling that I'm getting where, in the grand scheme of things, Baker's run's been just sort of nothing?
Alan's been saying that.
It's been, I would say it's been hideous, but it's been boring.
Bland as all hell. Yeah, she doesn't feud with anybody. She's just a champion.
That's that's the problem in their women's division.
Yeah, she's a great talker. She's got a fantastic presence, all of that stuff. But I don't know whether it's a case that the challengers just haven't been up to the level or anything like that. But it's not like she hasn't had feuds with people. It just hasn't meant anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem that really played a lot of Shida's reign as well. And again, I do say they're going in the right direction with their women's division, but frankly, a lot of the stuff the women do doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. There's no real story that Baker has latched onto beyond the Thunder Rosa thing, but that's a pickup of a story that didn't end, but for the most part ended in March last year with that Lights Out match.
It's a very lackluster way of doing it, which is remember the good match from before. We're just doing something similar. They're entirely depending upon people going, fuck, that match was great. Because it was. But this isn't that match. And if you wanted to do something more to it, you could have. So it's just underwhelming.
They've condensed it down way too much in the fact that in the last couple of months, they've tried to build this whole thing with like Thunder Rosa being taken out of the TBS match with Mercedes Martinez, and how that was actually Britt Baker that arranged Mercedes Martinez doing it instead. There's a lot of other routes they could have gone. I think that they should have done that earlier on. Maybe take Thunder Rosa out with Mercedes Martinez, have Thunder Rosa be on the shelf for a couple of weeks or months, let her concentrate on Mission Pro and stuff like that. And then have her come back, get revenge on Mercedes, then take out Jamie Hayter. Basically, make her go through the trials of everybody that associates themselves with Britt Baker to finally get that shot against her. But yeah, it's been condensed down way too much with just basically trying to get it all done in the span of a month and a half, when they should have really been planting the seeds of this 2 or 3 months ago.
And the TBS title is like, that has nothing to do with it. Why would Baker involve herself,
I know. Wouldn't she want her to win the TBS championship? Because then it means that she's not concentrating on the women's championship. So it's just, there's a lot to be left aside in this one. And frankly, as much as I don't like to, I mean, obviously I'll criticize anything that's worthy of criticism, but it's a case of, I don't want to just be one of the millions of people that shit on AEW's women's division, but they've dropped the ball here, and they've dropped the ball with realistically all Britt Baker's run as champion, and I don't know what they're going to do with this one at the moment.
Like, if anything, wouldn't it have made more sense, because they were teasing this whole thing with Jamie Hayter having problems?
Yeah,
to build more on that, it should have been Jamie Hayter versus Britt Baker here.
Yeah, that should have been the
I really think that they looked at the card and how stacked it was and decided, let's pile on here so that we can say it's the greatest card of all time. Because, again, I was listening to the media call earlier, and a lot of it was like, this card is so stacked. Isn't this card great? There were also a lot of questions of, hey, is this match going to be the main event? Specifically, is Baker Rosa going to be the main event?
Well, I say everyone, a lot of people have posited the idea of I think that this match shouldn't be the main event because of the way this has been built. It should have been if it was built correctly.
Yeah.
Because this is a big feud. And obviously we'll talk about Paige and Cole when we get around to it, but that's not necessarily a match you need to have as the main event of this show. And if you want to position your women as like, okay, they're equal to the men, in terms of just like positioning. So your women's champion can main event a pay-per-view as much as your men's champion can. Then I think this feud definitely, the match and the feud could have merited a main event slot if they'd done it correctly, but they haven't, and so it doesn't mean enough for it to main event. The only reason you would main event it, well, two reasons you main event it. One, because the previous match they had was great, and secondly, because you want to appear progressive, even though you're not actually, you haven't felt progressive enough to actually give them a feud.
So like,
it would be granted and not earned.
Here's my issue with that. I think AEW, like in WWE, when Ronda and Charlotte are going to main event night one of Mania, there's an argument that can be made that that's as big of a match as you're going to get from anyone on the roster, male or female. I think that the AEW roster is stacked to the point where, hey, there's a lot of people that have earned that spot, as opposed to just, hey, we're doing this because we know we need to be progressive. And yes, be progressive when it calls for it. But right now, they have a really stacked roster. There's no reason to just shoehorn this match into the main event because you feel like, hey, won't that be great?
Like with everything that's out there, whether it's pro wrestling or other different types of media, or just literally everything, it should always be about earning things and properly setting things up rather than just doing it for the sake of it. Like I hate talking points being the thing that dictates what people are doing. So it's like, yeah, if they could have done this Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker thing a few months ago, we were talking about that's clearly the biggest match. And now here we are, and this should be one of the biggest matches of the card. And we're like, man, Baker's run's just kind of blah, and we're not super into this. And that just goes to show what we said earlier. Like, AEW is not perfect. They are way, way better and logical than WWE is, but they still make their mistakes. And I was looking at this as before. Thunder Rosa is the definite guaranteed person who's going to beat Baker. Now I'm actually going that Baker retains.
Yeah, I think Baker retains as well.
I think it would be a mistake to have Baker lose here. Like, go ahead.
It's a difficult situation because I think Rosa should be the one to beat Baker still.
Not here.
But yeah, it doesn't make sense for it to happen here or now at this point in time. And maybe, again, I don't want to give them a lot of credit because of the way they have handled their women's division in the past. Maybe in some weird way, this is the start of their second feud. Like, they've obviously been building up to this match, but they do something in this match which then layers into a point where maybe not necessarily Double or Nothing, but maybe All Out. We get the trifecta, essentially, where Baker's held the title for over a year, and she's fought some other people in the meantime. Maybe she's taken out the Jamie Hayter issue at that point as well. And then you get round to Thunder Rosa again. Could make some sort of stipulation like not lose, like if Thunder Rosa loses, she leaves AEW. You build up some kind of like the real blood feud between these two, and then that's when you have Rosa crowned. I just don't feel like it makes sense. There's not enough energy going into this one to merit a title change.
Because if it does have the title change happen now, then it's just Thunder Rosa won. And everybody goes, oh, okay. Who's she going to fight next?
Yeah, at least there needs to be more fire and heat to this feud. It's just a bit, again, it's just trying to fan the residues of their previous feud. Which isn't ideal. They should have done better here. AEW do better on this one instance. The rest of the cards are great.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all going Baker, and that only leaves us with what I'm assuming is the main event, the AEW World Championship match, Hangman Adam Page against Adam Cole. This was another one that it was kind of rushed, I feel, where this could have been a much deeper feud, and I sort of got the feeling like...
Listen, the Orange Cassidy Adam Cole thing did not need to go as long as it did. They could have easily transitioned to this program a week or so earlier.
Yeah, because the Lance Archer, Hangman, Adam Page thing was just a stall. And then it was like, never mind, it's Cole. And in 2 weeks, basically, then we're going to have that match at Revolution.
I don't mind that per se, just because I think it's good that Page is basically defending his title once a month at the moment. So he's defended it against Danielson twice, once in December, once in January. He gets a defense against Archer in February. So he's kind of living up to the fighting champion moniker. And then Cole's next. And yeah, so I'm not too aggrieved with how they've handled it so far. They probably could have built this up more, but I don't think. And again, I'm going to maybe say something that at least one of the panel will find egregious. I don't think this is important enough to have merited more of a feud. I think.
I agree.
I think Adam Cole is just a stepping stone for Page.
Yeah,
there's the part where I'll disagree with you, but
he's there to have an interesting match and to be a worthwhile opponent, but he's not going to be beating Page. He's an adversary, but he's not the end game.
I don't know, guys. When Tony talks about Adam Cole and these things, he sounds like me, quite frankly. He's like gushing all over him.
I'm under no illusion he knows how big Adam Cole is, but this isn't Adam Cole's role. His role is to be the big feud of the spring and summer, which is the Elite versus AEW's version of the Undisputed Era. This eventually is going to lead to some sort of combination of Cole and Fish and O'Reilly versus the Bucks and Kenny Omega in some kind of match at Double or Nothing, and then it's going to lead to Cole versus Omega at All Out. Cole doesn't need the title right now. Cole, realistically, probably doesn't need the title for his... he might win it eventually, but he doesn't really need it. He's well established already. He's one of the biggest stars in the company. I think having Page win this match helps establish him more. Like, winning means way more for Page than it would for Adam Cole.
So, I think that there are so many people on this roster that fall under the umbrella of, well, they don't really need the belt. That at this point, I think that's almost like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't get the belt. No, and I'm not just saying that because it's Cole. I'd say that for Brian. I said it for Brian, and I'll say it for Punk when it's his time to challenge for the belt too. They need the belt on Stars because they're still a relatively new company that needs to say, hey, look at the lineage of our title. And so far, they've done great with that. But I do think Cole is better as champion. I'll compare him to Edge or Hunter in that way, that like they need the belt because it enhances their character. They work better when they're, fighting to stay champion. And I don't think that Hangman's run has been the most compelling television. Now, granted, he's up against some really good stuff on this program, but he so far has come across as the weakest champion. And I mean, when you look at the other three, of course he was going to, but I just think the belt needs some more spotlighting. And I'll agree with you that this doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal. Like Tony Khan was like, oh, and it's going to be the main event. And it's great, and this match has to be the main event. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. Punk and MJF could be the main event easily. Or, there's other matches on this card that are more important or feel like they've been built better than this match. And I think that that's a miss on the entire story of Adam Page. Because outside of the two matches with Bryan, he has not felt like the main character on this show, and he should because he's champion.
I think that's all the more reason why he beats Cole.
I'll agree with that. I don't think Cole is winning. I want Cole to win, obviously, but I don't think he's winning.
Yeah.
I personally think that Page is suffering from the fact that people just think that he's not having a good run because he's Adam Page. And it's hard to say that kind of thing because Page is great, obviously, and everyone sees that Page is great. But I think people just assume that oh, he beats Omega, and then, okay, it's just, he's on the title. Everyone was immediately, as soon as Page won the title, everyone was thinking, well, who's beating him for the championship? That's immediately what everyone's mind went to. When's it going to end up on Punk? When's it end up on Danielson? When's it end up on Cole? When's it ended up on...
Granted, and it's not fair to him, and I will admit that.
Fundamentally, he is the main character of AEW, or has been the main character pretty much since AEW's launch, because almost the entire promotion has been built around his story. And now he is champion. Admittedly, again, it does fall away a little bit because there's not the same emotional connection as the guy chasing for the title and being screwed over every opportunity. Of course, it's hard to recapture that magic, but I think you're at a point where this reign, it's not make or break, but it's a big deal for Page. Because if you handle it correctly and you continue to give him some big wins over some top tier opponents, then you get to the point where eventually when he gets around to dropping the title, he is a made man and can run feuds and be a big part of the show, regardless of whether he's holding the title or involved in the title picture or not. And yeah, this is part of that process, being a big name like Cole that wrestling fans know all around the world should help him establish that foothold. There's still much more that Page needs to do with the title.
See, but I think that this story could have really helped because there's so much meat on the bone here that they're not touching. It's very easy. Like, they did this great with Page throughout the entirety of his push, where the Bucks leading up to Revolution 2 years ago were like, hey, if it wasn't for us, you'd be some nobody jobber somewhere. Adam Cole is the guy that put Page in Bullet Club. Adam Cole is the guy that was like, this is the guy. And I don't think they've told that story. It's just sort of been like, Adam Cole wants championship. Hangman Page says no, where I feel like you could tell more of a story that builds the legacy of this cowboy badass. I just don't think that they did it right here.
I think a lot of that's just sort of, the story and you've been following that, so we're just going to kind of take the lazy route.
Yeah. I think they've been telling it well enough. Like, Cole's already come out and cut promos about the fact that, like, he did know Page and how, like, essentially when he comes into a promotion, Page becomes the other Adam. I think that was a really good line. And then Page cut that promo last week after taking out Colorado the Buckshot, talking about how talking about how Page is going to end up in like a hole in the ground afterwards, and kind of all of this sort of like language and imagery that just wouldn't fly on WWE TV by any stretch of the imagination, where I don't think you're even allowed to say the word dead on TV or something along those lines. But yeah, I think that they are building this up, and we'll see how they cap it off. Hopefully it leads it with a bit more, just a lot of heat going into the actual match itself, because there's still Dynamite, there's still Rampage to go. So I think there is possibility to just stoke the fires a little bit more, but I feel they're doing a decent job so far.
So ultimately, I'm going with Page retaining here, and I think this is going to be a hell of a match, and yes. I'm excited.
Yeah,
super excited.
Page retains. Obviously, nobody would be happier if Cole wins than I would be, but I think Page has more story to tell.
Yep, Page retains and moves on to somebody else in the future.
Probably Jericho.
Who that might be.
That's a story he needs to cap off as well.
I would like to see him. Yeah.
Once Jericho turns heel, then he's definitely got to be an opponent. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, we'll talk about it if and when it happens, because there's no point speculating until he's actually retained the championship. But again, it's one of the things that I do like the most about AEW is that there is a lot of different directions they could go with them, and a lot of them are exciting.
Down the line, we could see Page against Malachi Black. We could always see, if there's a chance that Cody Rhodes comes back, we could always see that, even though he's not ever challenging for the championship or whatever. You never really know. Like,
he's at the company now, so that stipulation is void.
Run at this point.
Yeah. Right, he could always come back, turn heel, and be like, "See, that was under a different contract." Like, they could always do some weird things like that. Miro is still somebody that you could build up enough to challenge for the championship.
And Punk is still an option. Punk will always be an option until he does get that first match.
Mox is an option,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
there's a
that's
lot
the whole
left for
thing, too,
Paige.
is no matter who wins, there's so many options. It's not like, well, Paige has to retain here because there are no options if Adam Cole is champion.
What I would love to
know?
see them do is after they do this, he cuts the promo of now he's the other Adam, and then Ethan Page can come out and be like, yeah, well, you're going to be the other Page.
They would do that. That would be the next holdover feud. I could totally see that
I'd quite
happening.
like that. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Do it. Like, why not? It'll make me laugh.
Oh, final question before just moving on past that one, because I know we've already got our prediction who's going to win. Does Kenny Omega return tonight?
Nope.
Or on that night?
Nope.
I'm 50-50 about it at the moment.
I think he could return at Revolution. Tony Khan did an interview with DAZN where he was like, not only will storylines end at Revolution, but you're going to see a whole bunch of new ones begin. And I'm like, all right, well, that means you got all the openings for Omega to come back. You've got all the openings for, a whole lot of things to start, in addition to capping a bunch of things off.
So finally, they're going to get into that Brock Anderson world title feud. No, I don't think Omega's popping up, but he could, and that's another interesting, potentially exciting thing too. And yeah, we'll see. And of course, that's happening this weekend. So over the course of the next few days, and especially with Dynamite tonight, we're going to find out some of those missing elements to the pieces of the puzzle that we will talk about on the hot tags, which we will probably record Friday afternoon. I'm thinking we try to do a little bit more of the afternoon things, but either Friday night, Friday afternoon. Address any of those changes if we've changed our mind about, actually now I think that they're going to go in the direction of Jurassic Express losing or, whatever it might be. Then we will talk about that down the line. And then when it comes to this weekend, we will be doing the live coverage and the live post show immediately following Revolution. So you can bookmark that and stay tuned to smarkoutmoment.com and make sure that your email notifications are alert. So that way you know when we go live. Join us for that. Hang out in the chat, talk about what was good and what was bad and all the other kind of good things that go along with that. And then we will kind of keep things going there. I'll, of course, have other stuff outside of that on EWN and Bleacher Report and whatnot. And, tomorrow the Batman's coming out. So I'm going to try to do something for that over on fanboysanonymous.com. So check out Fanboys there and subscribe and like and follow and favorite and all that good stuff. And continue to following us on Smark Out Moment at Smark Out Moment on Facebook and Twitter. Follow me at Tony Mango on Facebook and Twitter, and follow what these guys have as well. Callum, go first.
Okay. You can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out all the articles on smarkoutmoment.com. But make sure you leave a special bit of time for the power rankings, because that's my week-to-week contribution. And yeah, if you're interested in just stocking up on some wrestling content before you check out Revolution, there's always 2001 Wrestling Odyssey and the Full Heyman SmackDown podcast for those that like to travel back in time and listen about some retro wrestling.
And if you're following Revolution, you're following Fightful, I'm sure Sean Ross Sapp will be at the media scrums getting all the questions. I won't be on the post show because I'll be working till 3 a.m., I'm sure, writing up all that stuff and getting all that sorted. Follow Fightful.com. Follow Fightful Select. I'm sure there will be tons of scoops going into and coming out of this weekend. If you need more wrestling this weekend, Impact's got Sacrifice on Saturday. WWE is at the Garden. I'm sure that means something to somebody. Who knows what else will happen this weekend. And let's just enjoy it. And you should follow me everywhere at Dude Felice.
All righty, everybody. Thank you for listening to this edition. Thank you for your comments or whatever other types of support that you give us. We will talk to you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.